Have you ever felt like you're in hell? Literally, sometimes the ADD, ADHD brain and the driven brain is designed for a very chaotic, trauma-filled world. But if you are sitting there, really sitting in the darkness, and that ADD spin, some of us, can go really dark. And I work a lot with clients that get to these dark spaces, and it's horrible, and it's terrifying, and it's awful. And me, as a trauma healer and as teacher, I am like, yeah. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Why is going dark good? Let me explain this. So my name's Dr. Doug Brackmann. I am a licensed psychologist. I am a trauma healer, somatic experiencing practitioner. I've been doing trauma healing for the last 15, 20 years. And I am an expert in hopefully your ADD, ADHD brain. Done a bunch of other videos that use this model that talks about the sense of self and identity. I'll put a couple of links right above if you want to prequel this and want to kind of get a framework for hell realms. I've used that in several other videos as a description, but this one is specifically about why it's such a good thing and how our identity gets wrapped up into our emotions and how to actually unravel that. So if you're sitting there and you feel like the biggest piece of crap in the world, you feel like you're not worth it, like it's not worth living. And I say that in my driven book. And I have people come in my office and say, I think I'm going to myself. And for me as a therapist, early on, I was like, oh my God, what do we do? Now that I'm going 30 years into this, if somebody walks into my office and I want to myself or comes on my, into my world, my response is, yeah. And that is not to diminish the hell they're in. It's to help shake them out of this question of what the hell do you mean kill yourself? What is that even? Like the body, is this the self? Is it, am I emotion? So usually it's the desire to escape from the hell they're in. So use this picture a couple of different times, couple of different ways, but follow along. If you have ever questioned why you're on this planet, why am I here? There's only one answer is the truth, is that your parents had sex. And so prior to that, you were in two different places at the same time. You were in your mother and then your father, and then magic happened. And all of a sudden you exist. Prior to this, time did not exist for you. But once you exist, this continuum of time. So here's time. And time is this unfolding mystery. Like, is there really such a thing as time? There is, because I have a watch and I can measure it. So in objective reality, for me as the individual that does exist, because my parents had sex and put me here, creates this continuum of my experience of time. But that was long ago, 57 years ago. Parents had sex and boom, I'm here. And so here's the present moment. And this capacity to actually understand how we're making sense of this bizarre experience. Here's another video link above where I talk extensively about the monkeys and the elephant. So if you've never heard this before, this is the first time you've experienced me, I'll go over it really quick. There's two operating systems. We have one up here that is the measurement of time, and that's called the neocortex. And then we have one down here, this operating system down below the nose, that is a real-time operating machine. It's a lizard brain, foundational lizard wiring. And so it's a reactive mechanism to things that are happening in the present moment. And how does this thing work? It's very simply a recording device. And it records, here's the next thing on this chart, it records feelings of pain. And so as we are experiencing these feelings of pain, it gets greater and greater and greater and greater and greater. And as a biological animal, we are wired to avoid pain. Why? Because pain sucks. Pain is a signal that there's something wrong or there's something that I should avoid. And we'll get into it a little bit more, but this very simple concept of pain, we are a fear-based machine. And so we are wired to be scared of pain. That's key in this understanding of hell realms. And so as we are wired to experience this sensation of pain, you touch a stove and it's got this instantaneous wiring system, goes all the way up the arm, hits the spine, hits this thing that runs up and down our back and brain stem. And we have this magic limbic cluster, but this thing and this thing very simply, stove, rip, hits the spine. The spine then sends back an impulse to contract muscles. And all of these experiences are recorded in the body. Bessel van der Kolk, Body Keeps the Score, and Peter Levine, a lot of my teachers, very simply made this assumption that these programs that are wired into our DNA were there pretty much fixed. 30 years later, now that we have functional MRI and actually microscopes, you can see in the nerve level how these things are recorded and literally little ticks in the DNA. So this is a hardware system, meaning that it's hardwired. It's actually a real computer system, so to speak, incredibly complex. But this spine, and it is a reflex. You don't have to think about it. It thinks for itself. What happens next is that this thing is the software writer for the hardware system. And that software writer records immediately before and immediately, around the time of the trauma, the patterns in the environment that are coming through our sensory system. And so eyeballs, one of the most important sensory systems that keeps us safe, registers square, 4 circles, and then this thing, very simply, anytime that pattern is matched, a little bit of that trauma is released into the body. It pings our radar. So you walk into the kitchen and you looking around unconsciously below our conscious awareness, we go into a little tense just because the patterns match. Imagine if you're a parent, you watch your 4-year-old kid running towards your 3-year-old kid going towards the stove and there's pan because you can anticipate the pain that's going to come. What is happening is this constant flooding of experiences are being recorded as important, and what makes them important is the pain. So you have these experiences recorded in the body, and this limbic cluster constantly looking out to the future for patterns to match. So this is the past. There's the future. Very simply, we think about, or you see in real time, something in the future that matches one of these patterns. It pings, comes back through the present moment, looks for patterns that match, and there's multiple layers of this. So this is called coupling dynamics. These patterns couple up, and it's a 1/7 of a second. It's miraculously how fast it is. Then it releases this big neuropeptide soup into the body. And so this peptide soup, the hormones and electrical charges, all of this stuff go into the body, and we experience a little bit of the potential pain that this might create. And so that back and forth. We'll do another video on this, go into a little bit more depth and really about the sense of self. But this is about what's happening here and why it's so wonderful if you were in hell and experiencing these awful sensations. Yeah, and it is awful. I've been through it. I've got PTSD myself and from multiple things. We all do. And the capacity to actually logically understand what's going on is imperative. It's the most critical part of this video for you to grasp. Meaning that, that this biological mystery that we're living in and how it works is not you. And so the metaphor that I use in the video links above, and let's go into it, is this monkey and elephant metaphor. And so the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, I'll credit him with it, why not, noticed that we are very much like an Indian elephant with a bunch of monkeys up on top trying to control it. And these monkeys have temporary or seemingly a significant amount of control over actually what's going on in the elephant. But as the elephant gets more and more filled with these sensations, we have less and less control over the elephant, to the point where phobias, true phobias, some people see a snake and they run no matter what, because the elephant is taking charge of their life and the monkey mind is out the door. But the third element of that. So where are you in that? Monkey, elephant, haha, both, and double underlined, say in my book, neither. So it's that mind, body, soul. And so what this video is about is really understanding that the soul, or this observing ego, is the one looking at your life in this way. This concept right here, this massive thing that we believe is real, such as time, and we have a past and we have a future, and all of that is an illusion, truly an illusion. It's created by the monkey mind. How do I know that to be true? Because the present moment is also not static. You can expand your awareness of what's going on right now around you. And so here's fear, here's regret, and in this present moment, which is only accessible through the observer. I'll say that again. It is only accessible through the observer, observing the sensations in the body, or observing, actually with incredible curiosity, the things that are going on around us in the present moment. It's like, what? It's true. The mind only, this neocortex, this monkey mind, is only capable of constantly going back and forth between the past and the future. The moment you are in the present and you're just curiously observing, but then label something doorknob, that thought is coming from a label that you had in the past, projecting into the future, and it fills it full of meaning. In the present moment, none of that exists. And that starts to get pretty metaphysically weird really quick, but it's the truth. That is reality. I say it in my book, Driven, about the logical container. That logical container is the observer, is our soul. So that's the real you. What is in this present moment? These little and what is in this present moment? What are these feelings of pain? And when pain is mixed with fear, when these things get all all coupled up, I keep it with that language. Well, the Buddha called it dukkha. He called it suffering. He called it discontentment. He called it hell. It really is. And so when you are descending and deeper into this experience of pain, it gets to the point where it's intolerable. And that intolerable feeling starts to scare us. And so being able to separate these two, fear from presence, and this presence capacity, how much bandwidth you have in your soul, is literally how much pain you can tolerate. I got videos coming about me doing cold plunges and all this crazy crap, so I can actually strengthen my soul. And so if you're ADD, ADHD, and you're spinning into these depths of really feeling tremendous amount of pain, that is something that, as driven people, as ADHD, trauma-based personality types, we are actually designed to really challenge this. And so a lot of my clients, a lot of you guys that are driven, have tremendous amount of pain tolerance. Navy SEALs, and why would that be? Because we're actually designed to live in a world where pain is the potential. We're designed to live in a trauma-based world. So let me talk more about this presence. What is in the present? This pain. What does pain signal? And pain is a signal that tells us that it's important, that is separating us from something that we need to have for our survival. Say that again. Pain is a signal that tells us we are separating something in our need for survival. You cut yourself. That pain is a separation from my need for health, for my need to actually be healthy and to survive. So you step on a tack and it's, ow! That signals important, matters. And so obviously we are going to be scared of this signal that you're going to be separated from something that is very important, such as life. The other thing that is critical for our survival as a species, and I draw this little line right here, this period of our life, somewhere from birth to about 2.5, maybe even 3.5, we are essentially a ball of meat, ready for a saber-toothed tiger to come and eat. We are completely helpless to survive, and we are dependent upon our parents or dependent upon the tribe for our survival. So most of all of this is really about separation from the tribe or separation from, social validation. That's why, standing on stage and speaking is the most horrific experience for most people. Scary, because the pain that is there of being rejected by the herd. And so if you think about this as separation, these feelings of two or subject and object are being pulled apart. And therefore, very simply, what is the opposite of that? The opposite of that are feelings of one. This is feelings of unification or connection, attachment. And so this continuum that's happening in the present moment, this is pain, as we are going down, this going up are feelings of joy. Joy, unification, feeling, somebody's got my back, kind of, here's the pill to swallow about hell realms. And as we are descending deeper into hell, literally. What is hell? These feelings of loneliness are in the physical body. And so I'm lonely, I'm people starved, I haven't talked to anybody in weeks, and you feel this sense of lonely. That is a physical, and it's actually oxytocin receptor sites in your heart starting to scream for connection. But at some point down, when you physically get really deep into this, it shifts from lonely to alone. And alone is what, it's psychobabble land, it's called a schizoid tear. And in reality, it's when your soul, this observer, becomes aware that it too is also alone. And aloneness is the, dark night of the soul level of hurt. And I'm thinking about a couple of clients I'm working with right now that are really wallowing in this true sense of alone. It's an existential, my existence is being really questioned. It is beyond just the physical level. It is actually in the spiritual level. And these feelings of hell, our true hell, are beyond words. Why am I so yay? Because these clients, what happens when you are in a trauma healing practice, and in this big proponent of trauma healing, it is the path to freedom. What is trauma? Trauma are all of these recordings that are stuck in the body and self-protective motor responses, these patterns. And as you are doing the work, which is the breath work and the meditation and the cold plunging and the gaining greater and greater soul strength or logical, rational, objective capacity to observe your physical body going into pain, you get to this point here where it's no longer about my physical body anymore. We've done enough work. We've gone into our past, connected these smaller traumas. And for every one of these traumas down below the line, this pain, there's an equal and opposite. Say this is a positive charge. This is literally a negative charge. And if you're able to actually sit with the strength in the soul to observe the sensations in the present moment without being scared of it. I'll say that again. without this underlying resistance to feeling that pain. You're able to meet it with curiosity. You're able to meet it with compassion. You're able to meet it with really just curiosity, wonderment. Very interesting things happen. And this is biology, literally is biology. As this condenses into a greater and greater physical hurt in the body, it hits the action potential within the cells, and the cells go, pow, and they release, and you have this very profound expansion experience. From that expansion experience connects to this contraction experience of feeling like you're two, and then all of a sudden you pop into one. They literally, and you land into a new capacity, new bandwidth in the elephant. So the elephant's able to actually work now in this operating range, knowing that, oh, this might be trauma. That's a weird sensation. Let me meet it with curiosity. Whoa, and it biologically rolls through the body and clears. And it literally erases these patterns from the body. So you are literally becoming more and more free to live in your soul and not be as scared. Here's the key of this, and this understanding that in this present moment, there is no fear. What do you mean no fear? There can't be. Fear is a biological interpretation of something bad is going to happen in the future. And there is no fear in the present. What is the only thing that's in the present is love. Very simply, this whole thing, all the way down, is LOVE, love. And then you get to this magic place where you're actually able to tolerate physically the amount of presence it takes. This is, most of my clients that get to this stage are a couple years into a daily meditation practice. They're doing the table work. They're doing the rolfing. They're doing the craniosacral. They're working, as a somatic practitioner with me. You get to this depth where it's no longer physical. You become aware of the real deep schizoid tears from really early childhood, or actually it could be your parents' stuff stuck in your body. It's 4 generations in the transgenerational trauma is passed on. And this is, when you get to these depths of hell realms, it becomes it becomes spiritual, for lack of a better word. When you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it becomes really depth psychology, where you're really feeling that much. And I making this video to remind all of my clients that have actually done the work to get to these deeper levels of real deep core healing, that this and this will eventually catch up and meet each other. And when you actually, you're in the depths of hell and it's completely dark and there's a little tiny spark of light will come into this, and this little tiny spark of light will, and then it will wrap itself around. And so you have this depth of hell meeting the height of heaven. And so what's happening literally is the darkness is getting so dense, it's so compressed, and as you're going down, poof, it turns into this massive expansion of light, of energy. And so as energy is condensed and then expands, this yin-yang, this balancing of literally the masculine and the feminine, is what is this take to actually get down here and tolerate, is a tremendous amount of feminine compassion and stillness, and just allowing all of these horrible sensations in the body and on the soul level to actually get to the point where it just It lights up. Why is that? Why is that beautiful? Why does that make me so excited that I got guys in hell realms that are really struggling? Most importantly, they're not alone in it. There's these feelings that I know in both my body and my physical body, of feelings of this horrific loneliness. And on my soul level, I know aloneness. But I know in my soul level the depths of my darkness, the depths of my feeling like there is no connection there. There too is God. There too is this connection. And as you get to this point where you have full capacity to experience all of this, the amount of freedom that's on the other side of going through hell, or going through the eye of the needle, as Peter Levine calls it, where your soul is literally being squeezed and compressed, and then it pops into complete liberation. Because remember, where is reality on this big mess of a chart? It is right here. We are in the present on this continuum of unfolding time. And this is both heaven and hell. If you have the capacity and curiosity to go, all right, I'm all in. Let's go. Let's dive through. Let's do the work and get here. I promise you, you're probably driven. If this is the first time you've seen my videos and see how kind of nutty I can be, welcome. If you're questioning whether you're driven, go to amidriven.com. Take the assessment. It's a real assessment. And if you're wired in this way, I've got a bunch of other videos that dive into more about the trauma healing, more about the daily practices. Enjoy. Welcome home. Welcome to the tribe.